let them just build anything they want to build to automate, optimize the internal processes.
And that way we'll be able to reduce costs. We can replace people with AI.
So what would make startup different from just a pilot project for the bank?
Okay, let's give our knowledge workers ChatGPT and see what they can do with it. That
wouldn't be risky to partner with such an established vendors.
Most founders are in the mindset of move fast and break things.
What is your moat? What's your leverage? What's your competitive advantage for the startup? Jerry Johnston. Our today's guest is Jerry Johnston, founder and managing partner of JG Technology Consulting and an adjunct research advisor with IDC's IT executive programs. Jerry brings a real operator's view of fintech and financial services technology, shaped by senior roles at Wells Fargo, Wachovia, TD Ameritrade Institutional, and Travelers, as well as advisory work with global financial institutions and fintech companies. His expertise sits at the intersection of cybersecurity, cloud transformation, disaster recovery, operational resilience, and technology strategy. And today, we will talk about what it really takes for fintech companies to move beyond the pitch deck and become secure, scalable, bank-grade, business-ready. Jerry, welcome to the show. Hello, fintech leaders and builders. I'm Vin Solo from Insert Fintech Business Studio, and this is our next episode of the Guts, Grit, and the Fintech Podcast. So this is the show for strong-minded entrepreneurs who are not afraid to take the risk, to reap reward, and build a brighter financial future. And today, we have our next guest, Jerry Johnston. Hi, Jerry. How are you doing today?
Hi, Vince. I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate
Absolutely. And thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
So, Jerry has a lot of experience working in different banks. And Jerry, let's get started from, so we were chatting with you about the, what is like AI signal versus noise, especially in today's banks systems.
Yeah.
So what is your experience right now? So what are the major use cases that you see on the market that we could say, okay, that is something valuable, okay? Or no, that's not really a value. It's not really AI. This is something else.
Yeah, it's a great question, because if you think about how we got to where we are today, right? When the ChatGPT and Gemini started making sort of an appearance in the scene in our business, in fintech and whatnot, what happened is boards, CEOs and whatnot, they were throwing money at their technology groups and saying, hey, invest in AI. But the challenge was, and a lot of technologists came up the technology ranks, so they're not necessarily business strategists. They're not all business savvy. And so the question is, how do you put the AI to good use? Now, go back to 2 years ago or so, you saw a lot of like, okay, let's give our knowledge workers ChatGPT and see what they can do with it. That was one sort of use case, right? Another is let's take the customer service function or the sales function or the call center function, and let's build a chatbot that can front end that. And that way we'll be able to reduce costs. We can replace people with AI. And so I call that more hype than reality. I think, to me, you want to start with what's your overall business strategy, And then based on the overall business strategy, where do we want to invest and how do we want to invest in AI? So and the classic example of how maybe not to do it is what we just talked about with the chatbot. I don't know, Vince, how many chatbots have you worked with recently where you say, I'd really rather be talking to a person?
Maybe with some simple chatbots only.
Yeah.
It's a matter of trust, whether I can trust the chatbot or not.
Yes. And I think, at least in my experience, when I use one and it's not understanding what I'm saying, it's not understanding what I'm asking, then I want to go immediately to a customer service rep.
And really, you're trying to find the way to get in touch with the actual human person and cut the corners. And the chatbot it doesn't allow you, to contact the real representative.
That's right. Sometimes they don't.
And now you need to go through not just through the menu, but actually through the chatbot.
And the problem that I'm seeing is because boards and CEOs threw money at IT shops, then they say, okay, now what have you done to make this, reduce our costs, improve our revenues, improve our sales, whatever. There's a lot of pressure to deliver. And so that's one way to sort of deliver fast. You maybe take a script that the call center uses. You teach the chatbot using that. But the problem there is it's not context. There's not enough context. There's not enough data. So the chatbot is by design, it's very ignorant. So to make it a good use of AI, and the classic example of this is Klarna. But with Klarna, they went through that whole thing where they took a chatbot. They tried to save costs by reducing labor using ChatGPT, and they work with ChatGPT directly on that. And what they found is, yes, they reduced costs for about 2 years, and then they also started losing customers. And so the challenge, if it's well, let me back up a little bit. It's got to be strategic, right? In other words, if you're going to do a AI initiative, you want it to be something strategic. And I talked a little bit earlier about how if you have if you give a knowledge worker an AI, like a ChatGPT, there may be a very good creative use of that. They may use it in a very marginal way, right? It may help them with their email, but is that going to really move the needle in terms of revenues, costs, sales, etc.? So my take is you really start with what's the business strategy? How can AI be used to enhance that business strategy and give us a competitive edge? And you analyze how that can work for your company, and you maybe have 10, 100 projects that you run through some kind of governance, some kind of what's the best investment of our time and effort and money. And keep in mind that the cost of AI is probably going to increase over time. So if you give somebody a chatbot to help them with their email, that's probably not expensive today, but maybe it will be later. Whereas if you're doing something that will really move the needle, and we can talk about what those might be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, using AI is a brand new cost item in any P&L right now. So You can replace maybe some people and some personnel, but the AI usage dramatically increases, and now you end up with even more cost. You could end up even with more cost. And by the way, you said something like, okay, strategy. The banks, they can throw a lot of money into, okay, innovation. The question is, as soon as many of our viewers, they are B2B founders, builders, leaders, selling to banks and other financial institutions, what is the logic behind this business strategy? Whether the bank would throw money into their internal teams to innovate versus trying to attract some innovative solutions from the market. So basically, buy versus build.
No,
so
it's a great question.
What would make the especially early stage B2B fintech startup attractive for the bank to give it a try?
Well, the advantage that a startup has over a bank, if you think about what we just talked about with the difficulty of getting a chatbot to be aware and really intelligent, to do that, you've got to go through multiple layers with a big bank, right? I mean,
of course.
And to have one department talk with another and then coordinate with each other and work together on a project is for someone who's been a founder or been in a startup, as you and I have, it's very...
And the whole procurement journey with the bank.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. Everything is hard. I mean, not to say that they can't be fleet of foot. And they do approaches like innovation hubs, innovation labs, to try to get in front of things, but they're hamstrung a lot by rules and regulations, their own policies that prevent data sharing. Where I think if I'm a startup, my big advantage, if I want to compete against a bank, now I'm not sure if you were getting it selling to a bank or competing against a bank, but if I'm competing against a bank, let me talk about the next use case. We talked about sort of chatbots. The next one is Codex, and I recently did a blog post on this. But I read in the Wall Street Journal last week that the OpenAI is now recruiting big consulting firms, Accenture and Capgemini and whatnot, to go in and help sell Codex. Codex is the code generation tool that basically, if I'm a business person in a big bank, let's say I'm in lending or I'm in retail, I can use human prompts to create code to generate a prototype or a demo. And for a big bank, that's good in many ways, because in the old school way of doing things, you'd have to come up with a product strategy, turn those into specs, take the specs, give those to business analysts, make them more refined, iterate, then give them to IT to start building. And a lot of times when you built, it wasn't what they were actually looking for. So if I can just prompt my way through a demo as a product owner, let's say in a big bank, and then give that to the IT organization, or give it to an organization like Vince's, I can then make that and ruggedize it and scale it out and turn it into something valuable for customers. But if I'm a startup, the big value is it used to cost a fortune to do something like what I just said, right? To to take a vision that you have maybe in paper. You've got a great business idea or solution, and you want to turn that into a demo. That would cost a fortune. And now you don't necessarily need Accenture or I'm not picking on them. You don't need a big consulting organization. You just need, you could ask ChatGPT to help you and develop your own model. Maybe with some help from someone like your team, Vince, but maybe not. And so in the space of a few meetings, you've got yourself a demo that you can start looking at. Can I get a handful of customers to take this from a demo stage into something more like a minimal viable product?
Then the question here is why the bank would ever need a founder of some startup and work with some kind of startup if they can simply put together the team of few people, innovators who would use the Claude to build and to automate internally and give them all the AI power and let them just build anything they want to build to automate, optimize the internal processes, but not actually like buying any solution from the market. So why would the bank go to the external provider startup rather than just building own internal AI agents and that's it?
Yeah. I think in the case of an AI agent, the bank is going to be inclined to build its own. It's not going to be inclined to go outside unless it's for a niche area, something very specialized. Remember how we talked about the context, right? For a bank to have a good agent, like a call center agent, for example, it's got to be integrated from the front end, middle, and the back end, multiple departments. It's got to to do it well. It's got to get a lot of data in there. And that requires what I talked about earlier, which is, a lot of sharing between departments. It takes a long time. So the key advantage I see for a founder that's got a good idea, right, is if that good idea is unique, different enough, and can add value to a bank, an insurance company, a brokerage company, what have you. If that idea is unique enough, they can turn it into something that's useful a lot faster than a big bank or big insurance company or big brokerage could. And
why would they be able to do this faster than the larger financial enterprise?
Yeah, because they're not as hamstrung by regulations and regulators. They're not as bureaucratic. There's, most founders are in the mindset of move fast and break things. Most bank people on the business side, on the IT side, how do I say this gently, right? They're more concerned with pushing the ball up the field than throwing a long bomb into the end zone, right? Whereas a founder, go ahead.
So what would be then the best way to validate that we really have a great idea, as you are saying? Because it's an idea, you can have a lot of ideas, but how would you validate, especially taking into account that they have all these procurement processes, and if you're not if you're not the on the approved list of vendors, you first need to go through all the procurement processes, compliance, before they will allow you to touch any of their data, so that you could actually prove that your solution is valuable enough for the bank to be considered, for the
No, that's a great question, and it's very true.
That's basically what we're seeing with a lot of startups. What's going on? They just, they could even build something, that works in the sandbox, but they are struggling to go through all this procurement and compliance with the bank and actually validate on the real data, that their solution is feasible enough. So in sandbox, yes, it works. It could be a nice demo, some nice charts or maybe some infrastructure that works, but only on the test data. It's not a real data, but you need somehow to validate it on against the real environment.
Yeah, well, your large banks and financial institutions, most of them have a pretty mature strategic sourcing or procurement, whatever you call it. And a lot of that system is built to keep vendors from knocking on all the technologists' doors day in and day out. And most of the technology teams know to say, look, you've got to be on the approved vendor list. You got to talk to procurement. Now you can't talk to me, which is very true. But if there is a product or service that is unique enough that the technology leadership demands it, or maybe there may be other ways to get in there, like maybe through an innovation lab, say as a proof of concept, where you're not necessarily earning money, but you can show that how it works. So my take would be on that, you have to have an executive sponsor at a high level who would say, look, I need to get this into sourcing on a temporary basis so we can prove or disprove the product and its value to our institution. Another way, like I said, would be some kind of innovation center. A lot of banks, a lot of insurance companies have innovation centers. One I was reading about recently. I can't remember the company. It wasn't fintech, but it was interesting because what this company did is they built a whole company outside of their own company with its own brand and label, just to innovate. So companies like that, you might be able to get in there if you've got something that would be appealing to them. But it's got to be something
like a corporate venture studio.
Yeah.
Or like corporate innovation lab.
Yeah. Man, I wish I could remember that case. They actually built their own company just to do. The idea is, a big company, 100, 120 years old or whatever, it's very hard for them to change the culture and the mindset. It's kind of what I went back to earlier of the team into something like a startup or something like a small business where you can be fleet of foot and you can make ideas happen quickly. It's very hard for them to do that. So the idea behind these is not necessarily IT, but maybe new product development. They'll create a whole separate company just to try out new ideas, and it'll be funded by the main company, but it's not obvious that it's actually owned by the company that's sponsoring it. It's a completely different entity.
Jerry, let's talk about the following use case. So let's assume we have several pilots with the bank. Let's assume we have an MVP. We have several pilots with the banks. We have proved that they're valuable. They bring some value. So now you need to move forward somehow, and you need to show that you have a really enterprise-ready system. Okay, so what would make startup different from just a pilot project for the bank? Okay, and the enterprise-ready system ready to be deployed into the core workflows.
I think it comes down to the solution that startup brings to that pilot. It's got to be something very compelling that that those 5 banks or what have you, they need it. Something like this is just off the top of my head, right? But Mythos, right, has come out. It can identify vulnerabilities that other systems can't, right? And there's a handful of systems well accepted in the industry that are used to do that. They keep databases, but if you could take something like the output of Mythos and then fix it using AI, that would be something that would be very compelling, because no one wants to wake up one day and find out, oh, there's a 0-day vulnerability in my system. And not only can Mythos find out about it, but also the bad guys. But I don't have the solution, right? So something like that would be so compelling that the leadership at whatever XYZ bank would have to say, how do we get this in here? And at that point, there's ways to make policy exceptions and whatnot. There's policies to say, yeah, you have to be on the approved list. It's got to be signed off on by so-and-so, such and such. But in the end, if the need is great enough, it will find a way in. If it's something that can be bought otherwise through a more traditional vendor, that would be then a bank would typically not take a chance on a startup, would be my take. Let me go down one other path, Vince, if you don't mind. The other way to approach it would be, to me, is to find out who are the big vendors for XYZ Bank.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
Who do they use? Is it, are they using who do they use for telecom? Who do they use for security, right? Go to those vendors, and then if your product can supplement something that they already offer, those vendors they probably already have an agreement, a master service agreement, under which they can maybe bring in someone like a startup, or maybe the startup could sell directly to that vendor. So that would be another approach to that kind of problem.
Wouldn't be risky to partner with such an established vendors, because they could, just build the same feature instead of selling the startup to the bank they have relations with?
Yeah, that's an issue. I mean, they've got the resources. I think the advantage a startup would have, of course, you could copyright, you could patent, and that gives you some level of protection. But I think the best protection would be you can do it faster and make it happen faster than the, I don't want to, take an IBM or Cisco. It's going to take if you're a startup and you've got smart people, maybe 10 smart people that can develop and build product, they're going to be able to do it a lot faster than a big vendor could.
So we have also seen that some founders think about compliance as just a paperwork. So what makes compliant not just a bureaucratic process? Why founders should pay attention to compliance?
Oh, wow. I mean, compliance is a pretty broad term. Uh, but every every uh, every large company, even small companies, need to have policies that sort of lay down the guardrails, what we can and can't do. And so there's a lot of, right now, there's a lot of work going on around agent development. I think I mentioned, there's an agent, people, companies have a new AI problem, too many agents. So agents are being developed.
Yes.
But if you're CEO, CIO, CRO, you don't know where they are, what they're being developed for, right? So there's a need to have some kind of understanding of what the risk is for having, say, 10,000 agents in your company doing things that you know or don't know what they're doing. So and there was a report from a big research firm that everyone knows the name of. It basically said 12% of the companies out there, the big companies, have some sort of governance around agents. So if I'm a startup, I need to understand the basic compliance policies around for banks, what they need. And if I'm trying to sell to banks, let's say, I need to understand what those rules are. And they're all out there publicly because they're mostly dictated by regulations, but they have their own policies as well. But, for governance of AI, that's sort of a new area. And each company is working on how do we govern AI. With AI, one thing that's unusual about it is with an old system that was hand coded. Maybe it's very predictable. You could put it in a test environment, run it through all the cases, an infinite amount of use cases to test it. It's actually a finite amount of cases to test it and exercise every path. But with AI, you don't. It's not as predictable. So
it's a brand new problem.
It's a very new problem, and it's
AI edges governments. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a compliance problem because there's risk around having AI bots telling customers things that are wrong, having hallucinations and so forth. And so that risk turns into mitigation policies, that turns into compliance, and then compliance, then your auditors and your regulators will be looking at, are they managing their risk properly? And that gets lots of attention. So yeah, definitely compliance is a hot topic. It's not something most people look forward to working on or working with. Some more than others, I guess, but it's critical to running any fintech or finance institution.
Absolutely. So, Jerry, to wrap up our conversation, could you tell us how you could be helpful for the fintech founders and where they can find you?
Oh, yeah, sure. You can find me. My company, I'm the founder, is a GJ Technology Consulting, LLC. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Jerry Johnston. And then I've also published a number of research topics under my name, Gerald Johnston, so you could search for those. And I'm sure if you're working with Vince and Vince's team on something and you need you need some strategy or consulting type work to help build resilience and build scalability into your idea or your vision, I could work with you and Vince's team to make that happen.
Absolutely. Thank you. Jerry, thank you for your time today and all the insights. I particularly like the one about how you can get into the into the bank through the existing vendor. So I think it's a very smart strategy, and we have seen this happening with a couple of our portfolio companies. The life becomes much easier when you have such a partner who can help you to get in. And and also another point, which is I think very important, is the speed. Meaning, yes. What is your moat? What's your leverage? What's your competitive advantage for the startup? I mean, they say you need to build something. You need to build something defensible. But I think that basically your moat as a startup is not just building something very unique that nobody can build. You can build, everyone can build whatever the idea is. But the speed is becoming the leverage. So the speed of innovation becoming the leverage, and this is how you could also compete with the bank, or how you can partner with them, because this could be a unique competitive advantage that the bank doesn't have.
Absolutely. And
this is how you can partner, how you can partner with the bank, and why the startups could be valuable for the banks.
Yeah, and the one thing I'd add to that, I think you said it very well, but one thing I'd add is that if you're a startup, the big advantage that you have is you can try things. If you can test out your business solution idea, and then you can model that using the stuff we talked about, like Codex or Designer, to do code from prompts, and that's a brand new world. So you could do that and test it out until you get something. You could test 5 models in the time it used to take to design one and prove it works or doesn't work. So, yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Jerry, thank you. And for everyone who are watching us today, don't forget to like this video, to subscribe to our channel, and to hit the bell button so you're not missing the next episodes of our show, The Guts, Grit, and the Fintech. So it was me, Vince Solo from Insart, and Jerry Johnston. Thank you, and let's keep building the fintech and brighter financial future together. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thanks, Vince. Thanks, all.